The coming revolution in warfare. Commentary. We are on the edge of an enormous revolution in warfare. It will not be an incremental evolution from what we are already doing. It will be a profound, disruptive transformation. We will have to rethink all of our plans, doctrines, organizational structures, and training systems. Genuinely disruptive technological capabilities are relatively rare historically. The transition from arrows to gunpowder was one such revolution. It ended the era of large castles. Powerful cannons could simply knock them down. The combination of the internal combustion engine and the radio similarly revolutionized warfare. It evolved into controlling ships at sea, replacing sails with steam, developing air power, creating tanks, and then enabling large tank formations to be directed by radio. That evolution from 1870 to 1980 was dominant. Countries which did not adapt were rapidly and decisively defeated. The emergence of theater-wide, and in some cases worldwide, real-time communications created another revolution in the 1980s. In June 1982, an Israeli version of the airborne warning and control system airplane monitored the Syrian Air Force, even before planes left the runway. The plane directed Israeli fighters into a series of ambushes, in which 101 Syrian fighters were shot down at the cost of one Israeli plane. When I was briefed on this engagement at the Air University in the 80s, I immediately realized it marked the end of the Soviet Union. A dictatorship that thought Xerox machines were state secrets could not possibly compete with a real-time, theater-wide information system. In effect, the entire, heavily armored World War II Soviet military was being made obsolete by the information revolution. Furthermore, the survival requirements of a totalitarian state were going to make it virtually impossible to adapt to the new reality. Now we are in the early stages of a new profound revolution in warfighting. Ukraine will build 4 million drones this year, including autonomous vehicles capable of hitting targets 1,900 miles away. SpaceX has already lowered the price of satellite launches by 90% with its reusable rockets. The Starship will reduce the cost even further, and will launch the equivalent of a C-17 aircraft into space. 7 passenger launches by Starship would equal every person put into space by every country in the last 6 decades. In 2017, Elon Musk proposed a point-to-point use of Starship which would carry more than 100 passengers in airline-style seating from New York to Tokyo in 37 minutes. The military potential that creates for rapid intervention is worth pondering. Anduril is building an autonomous submarine called the Ghost Shark for the Australian Navy. This submarine does not need space for people. It is the size of a school bus and can carry a lot of torpedoes. As Chris Brose told me on an upcoming episode of my Newt's World podcast, a Virginia-class submarine costs $4 billion, and there are few of them. The standard Mark 48 torpedo costs $5 million, and there are relatively few of them. For the same price you could have hundreds of Ghost Sharks carrying thousands of inexpensive torpedoes. If the Navy focused its most sophisticated systems on the most complex threats, it could then focus Ghost Sharks on all the easier targets. In a place like the Taiwan Straits, this would make a communist Chinese invasion virtually impossible. The new technologies are going to rapidly evolve, and we must have fast, adaptable manufacturing to produce enough quantity to meet the demands of the modern battlefield. One example of the revolution in manufacturing is Divergent 3D. This factory combines artificial intelligence, 3D printing, robotics, and specialized chemistry to create the most adaptable and rapid manufacturing system in the world. The scale of change is captured in a project at the LeMay Center at the Air University. The center is looking at 5 different areas of dramatic breakthroughs: artificial intelligence and autonomy, advanced materials and production, biotech and neuroscience, quantum science, and robotics and miniaturization. Of course, these 5 also require a 6th zone of study, which is how you build synergistic systems that integrate all 5. In a time of revolutionary change, it takes an enormous amount of experimentation and entrepreneurial leadership to fully develop an applied version of the new developments. Often it is the integration of several breakthroughs that suddenly lead to enormous increases in capability. The German adoption of the radio for every tank created a speed of command and control in 1940 which allowed them to decisively outperform a significantly larger number of French tanks in just a matter of weeks. The original flight of the Wright brothers on December 17, 1903 was a shorter distance than the wingspan of a Boeing 747. It was slow enough that one brother could run alongside the plane to make sure it did not flip over. Within 15 years, dramatically more powerful aircraft evolved into the fighters, bombers, transport planes, and other aircraft of World War I, out of which the modern Air Force emerged. The earliest aircraft carriers at the end of World War II were small. The aircraft were so underpowered that it was not clear they would ever be a threat to ships. Within 20 years, dramatically more powerful improvements in aircraft engines, and the development of large aircraft carriers, had decisively changed the nature of war at sea. The battleship admirals of the time did not believe it, until their precious ships started to be sunk by airplanes. When you are entering a period of revolutionary change, the present is merely a Polaroid snapshot. You must imagine the change as a continuously evolving and expanding motion picture. You must imagine the future by looking far beyond the present. This revolution in warfare is going to be an enormous challenge for the Pentagon. But it must be embraced and developed if we are to remain the most effective military in the world. From Gingrich 360.